I guess my first great opportunity was at the Wesley Breast Clinic, which was just starting at that stage. But with the advent of screening, just a couple of years later, the world of breast cancer changed. And I was there, I just happened to be there at the right time, in the right place. So I was incredibly fortunate. Then came the opportunity to join the Council of QUT. And what an opportunity that was. I was there on council for 4 years when I threw my hat in the ring to become the next Chancellor of QUT, and I was elected. So another transforming opportunity, an opportunity that was just changed my life. My legacy from the Wesley Breast Clinic was the introduction of support programs. So we had they're now called breast care nurses. I call them nurse educators. They met with every woman coming for screening. They explained the pitfalls. They explained how to manage the risks around breast cancer. That wasn't done anywhere else, nowhere in the world. And we did it. Here were nurses doing clinical examinations, and there were a lot of the medical profession were anti that. So I broke a lot of the rules, the traditional medical rules. So the clinic was much more than a medical service. It was a one-stop shop for women and families as to how to deal with breast cancer. So I was Queensland's first female Chancellor of the university, and what an incredible honour to be a Chancellor, and very proud to be the first female. Becoming Chancellor of QUT was a transforming moment in my life. It didn't make any difference to me that I was a woman, but it obviously made a very great deal of difference to the outside world, and I was just out there determined to be the best Chancellor I possibly could for QUT. It was very exciting for me personally, and I was very, very proud to be chair of the board of that school. The really exciting thing was that I was the first female chair since the school was founded in 1875. And since then, all the chairs at the board of the Brisbane Girls Grammar School have been females. I believe implicitly everything I've ever done, my medical career, my university career, have all been about excellence in research. What became apparent generally around the world was that a lot of the publicly funded research could be converted into commercial outcomes, but wasn't being. So the big challenge was how to convert the excellence of the research into benefits for patients. It's that challenge that got me excited and involved in biotech, that journey. When I first became involved, I had no idea just how difficult and long that journey was, as I really knew very little about that translation/commercialisation journey. But it was the challenge of that commercialisation and getting the benefit to people that drove me on. In those days, the challenges were not enough human resource expertise, and we didn't have an industry, and that was a very big problem then. It's less of a problem now. We have more venture capital firms functioning in Queensland and in Australia. So back in 2000, when Peter Beattie first was promoting the concept of the smart state, commercialising research was seen to be an important part of that, which it was and which it should be. So one of those initiatives was establishing the Queensland Biocapital Fund, it was called. Its goal was to commercialise the research coming out of these wonderful research institutes that were world class and fantastic. When I came into the fund, against my better judgment, but again out of a sense of responsibility, I initially said I'd take over the CEO role for 3 months until they found a real biotech director, but that never happened. The fund had been fully invested already, and in many too many small high-risk investments. The challenge was restoring confidence in the industry and trying to salvage what we could of the investments. There was no more capital, but two really wonderful things came out of the QBF fund, which we changed its name to Queensland Bioventures. One, during the process, we partnered with a very experienced US VC firm who agreed to invest in Queensland companies. It didn't quite work out the way it was planned, but there were significant returns came in through that partnership. And the other big thing was learning from mistakes, was the creation of the Business Development Fund, which now invests in biotech startups and is very successful and is going extremely well. Biotech companies that I was involved in, I guess the first and maybe the most successful was Peplin Biotech. And we had a wonderful molecule which in Petri dishes would kill cancer cells, and it would kill many sorts of cancer cells. And the other thing it didn't kill normal cells. So it was exciting in theory. And we went through our clinical trials with excellent results. So it looked extremely promising. And we were then at the end of phase 3, difficult for every biotech company. Launching a product and marketing it is a huge other journey, requiring heaps of capital. So the company was sold for holus bolus cash up front for around about $240 million US, which was over 300 million in Australian dollars. I do think I have an overextended a sense of responsibility, a sense of duty. I joke a bit about being brought up in a Calvinistic household where duty and obligation was paramount. But yes, I do like a challenge, and when I see a need, I do feel a responsibility to respond to that need. I always have doubt as to whether I'm the best person for the job, but often there's nobody else willing to do the job, and so I feel that I can contribute. Trust is everything. I had 2 wonderful mentors, 2 wonderful people that really enabled me in the early years, and those 2 men listened to my ideas. We talked things over, and they trusted me. They gave me rein to develop the clinic in the way that I thought it should be developed, based on the needs of women and what we could do. And it was that trust that those 2 men had in me that enabled me to do what I did at the breast clinic. I don't think I can work in a place where there's not trust. Mr. Clary Arbuckle was the CFO, and then he became the CEO of the Wesley Hospital. So I worked very closely with him. I would go and talk to him about the difficult decisions I was having to make in terms of budgets, in terms of capital for equipment. He was wonderful. He once said to me, "You look after the women and I look after the money." The other, Dr. George Fielding, it was his idea to establish the breast clinic, and he was there through thick and thin. He trusted me. He trusted me because I wanted to bring in all these support programs, and which weren't done anywhere in the world. I faced a lot of challenges, some of which were self-doubt, but which I worked at overcoming. Some of which were feeling intimidated by strong, powerful men. But I think the greatest challenges were not related to gender. I think my greatest challenges were when I couldn't get consensus. I do absolutely believe women cannot have it all. Back in the early 70s, there was all this talk about superwomen, and I was frequently asked, was I a superwoman? The answer was absolutely no. And in a lot of the talks I gave when I was Queensland of the Year, I talked about the fact that women have to make choices, just as men have to make choices. You have to decide what are your priorities in life, and you can't do everything. Well, the whole of my life has been about promoting women. I have believed in equality of men and women since I was 5 years old. Both my parents believed that girls could do anything that boys could do, and that was the mantra for my life. Marie Curie, who is one of the greatest women scientists and women who've ever lived. She said, "I was taught that the way of progress was neither swift nor easy." Now, I think that quote sums up my career. It hasn't been swift, it hasn't been easy, it's been challenging, and it's been hard work. But I'd like to think that wherever I've found myself, I've done my level best to make things better for the people I serve, for the customers, for the clients, for the patients, for the community.